We are unlikely heroes, and since 2011, we've rescued more than 400 children from sex trafficking all over the world. And we have 7 restoration homes now, 1 in the Philippines, 1 in Thailand, 4 in Mexico, and 1 right here in the United States in Dallas, Texas. And we're just getting started. A few years ago, our home director heard a noise coming from a trash bag right outside of our house, and inside of that trash bag was a baby. He was still covered in the afterbirth, and he was left at our doorstep. It's now been 5 years, and baby EJ is now in kindergarten and getting awards. His mother was only 14 years old and trapped in a brothel, and if our home wasn't there, there'd be nowhere for him to go. I was visiting one of our homes, and I went to do outreach that night, and I was stopped from going into one of the brothels because they just found a fetus in a dumpster. And I stopped and I thought about baby EJ, that could have been him. If our home wasn't there, it would have been baby EJ in that dumpster.
Little Mateo, he's 5 years old. He came into our home. He was trafficked by his own grandmother. He was sold, he was beaten, and he was raped by men. He was so scared and so timid. All he wanted to do was learn how to write his own name. We worked really hard to learn his alphabet, and now he can write his own name, and he is so proud.
One of the girls we rescued was trapped in a brothel from the time she was 12 years old, and we rescued her out on one of our first rescue missions to the Philippines. I was just sitting with her and talking, and I said, "What are you gonna do now that you've gotten your degree in computer programming?" And she said, "I'm gonna get a job, and I'm gonna put my brother and sister through school." And there was this moment that I stopped, and I realized we haven't just changed her life. We didn't just rescue her out of a brothel, but we've now changed her brother's life and her sister's life, and now they won't become victims of human trafficking. And the reality is that when you rescue one of these kids out, you're not just rescuing out one girl, you're rescuing out a whole family. You're rescuing out a legacy and a generation, and that's what we're doing together. And the truth is we are doing it together because it takes every single one of us stopping and using our time and using our resources to rescue out a child who is unable to rescue themselves out of slavery that actually creates the answer to human trafficking. This problem is not too big. There are solutions, and what we're doing is working, and we need your help. In 2014, we were asked to send a team to Nigeria to provide emergency medical services, trauma counseling, and care to many of the girls who escaped from the Boko Haram and many of the mothers who are still waiting to see the return of their daughters. That kidnapping, known as the Bring Back Our Girls kidnapping, is the largest case of human trafficking to date, and our teams have been on the ground providing support since it happened.
In 2015, we opened our 8-bed USA restoration home. And because of you, we've been able to fully renovate it. We've been able to give our girls an incredible environment. They've got a brand new computer lab full of new computers, a brand new kitchen with new appliances, new hardwood floors, new paint, and completely renovated, beautiful bedrooms. Many of you know just how important an environment is. Your environment communicates so much to you about your value, your worth, and even just what is possible. And by giving these girls a brand new environment, we're expanding their horizons, we're helping them to dream bigger dreams, and we're communicating something really important, that they're worth it.
I was recently in the Philippines, and it was 4 o'clock in the morning, and I walked into a brothel, and there were more than 40 girls sitting there right at the front, and they all just had name tags on with numbers. And the brothel owner came to us and handed us a menu and said, "Here's all the girls, go out there and pick whichever one you want by her number," and then showed us the different horrific sex acts that you could just purchase this poor child for. And we said, "No, we just want to go and sing karaoke and sit in the main room." And so they assigned this little girl to us who will change my life forever. Her number was 26, and she was only 16 years old, and she'd just barely been in the brothel for less than a month. And I looked into her eyes, and I saw something that I haven't seen in the other children that I've seen in the brothels, and it was hope. And I realized in that moment that she didn't know that she'd become a sex slave yet, that she was too innocent to actually have grabbed a hold of the fact that she wasn't going to make it out of a brothel. And I would love to be able to tell you that we were able to rescue her, but we actually didn't have a home in that area, and so I wasn't able to get her out. But not a day goes by that I don't think about number 26, because she is more than a number, and her life is worthy of freedom and a future. Because when you give freedom, you don't just give a future, you give a child a destiny. And you give them a destiny that not just changes their own life, but will change the course of history forever. These kids are world changers, and these kids are the unlikely heroes that will go forward and stop human trafficking throughout this world. So I'm going to ask you, will I help a child trapped in sex slavery? Will I become the unlikely hero who helps to give a future back to a child in need? Because the reality of slavery is that these kids can't rescue themselves. They need us to come together and to build that team and to build that family of love around them that provides them with everything they need so that they can dream of a future that they would want to live.